You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the October 11th meeting of the Long Beach Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay. Is Fred Mason? Is Bob right? So no, so she will call. Who's on Zoom? Which board member is on Zoom? Fred Woods is on Zoom? Yeah. Okay. I'll make it that. Sorry, it's sorry, sir, Bob, I can't see that far. Was Bob May up here? Yes. Oh, it's you. You impossible.
Okay, just okay. So I just recently replaced the folder, and that seemed okay, but it's still not responding exactly the way I did. It's just a piece of so you're right about the recipe this year. Something that very well. You can start whenever, you just can't participate until they can be seen. You don't have to.
I don't see her.
Well, he may already have to. She's saying he was intended to.
Oh, he's not up here yet. I'm like, Carter Ford's asking me, is.
No, she'll take roll. I mean, she's gonna when it starts, and then have to do roll call, he shows up.
Oh, she's talking about the mic stop.
Oh, yeah, yes.
I think if we want to, you can jump on the board then, well.
Just for that.
I'd like to open our meeting. He said I don't have to do the gavel, so I'm gonna do that. Welcome to the Town of Long Beach Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting, Tuesday, October 11th, 2022 at 7 o'clock. We have one board member meeting with us via Zoom, Fred Woods, and so we'll do our call to order, please. I'll do roll call first. Chairman Meg Canier, present. Board members Seth McCormick,
Present.
John Mangle,
Here.
Doug Wickstrom,
Present.
Fred Woods,
He's muted.
Fred, I think you might be muted. Oh, by us. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Hello.
Aye.
Fred, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you. There's no absent board members. BZA Council, Chris Willoughby.
Here.
BZA Secretary, Meg Collins, I'm here. Building Commission Representative, Bob Lemay. I believe you are on Zoom, but
No,
he's not. Oh, okay, so there's no Building Commission representative.
this login is Bob LeMay's ID.
That concludes roll.
And
Thanks,
just-
Meg.
and just as a reminder, everything has to be roll call vote. Since one member is appearing, you have a quorum present, so you can proceed. And for Mr. Woods to participate, he needs to be able to be seen. You need to be able to interact, and the public needs to be able to see and hear him as well. So just make sure, if there's a glitch, we'll adjust as we go, but need to make sure that he is present. He can otherwise participate, but his vote won't count if he can't be seen and heard.
Okay, that's excellent. So nice. We'll do the pledge while we're waiting for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Like to have approval for the minutes from our regular meeting on September 13th, 2022. Do I hear a motion from anyone?
I'll make that motion.
I have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, if you call roll for us, Meg. Approval. Meg Cantor. Approve. Seth McCormick.
Approved.
John Mangle.
Approved.
Doug Wickstrom.
Approved.
Fred Woods.
Present.
Do you approve the minutes?
Approved.
All right, thank you, Meg. We have no old business and no new business. Preliminary hearings, we have none. So we'll move into our public hearings. And Meg, would you read the current one before us, please? This is a reopening of a public hearing for Yellow Bear Farms LLC, lots 51 to 70, Hidden Shores, first edition with a parcel number. Developmental standards variance petition requests variance from the requirements of section 154.048, the maximum height of buildings. Petitioner is seeking to build a home with a height increase from 27 to 33 feet from the highest final grade. The preliminary hearing opened at the June 14th BZA meeting. Public hearing opened at the July 12th BZA meeting. That public hearing concluded and any vote by the board was continued to the August 9th meeting. The petitioner requested a continuance to the September 12th BZA meeting. The public hearing is set to reopen tonight at the October 11th BZA meeting. Thanks, Mike. Is there anything that you would like to cover for us?
Just want to clarify, Meg summed it up perfectly. This is probably a little unorthodox, but the main thing from your perspective, as well as the petitioners and the benefit of the public, is making sure that the public process is honored. And so by virtue of allowing, because of the nature and some unique things perhaps with the way that this is unfolded, the public has been notified and the petitioner has sent out notifications, republished. So the main purpose that you need to protect of the process, in my opinion, has been met, and I think that you're on solid ground to proceed as Meg summarized.
Okay. And Meg, have all the requirements been met for the notice and? The requirements have all been met to open. So, Anthony, you want to step forward and
Sure.
share your,
Good to see you.
take another minute to do your presentation?
Sure. So, again, my name is Joe Back. I was very busy with Spencer and Jones before. Here with me tonight via Zoom, again, is Mike Scott, the builder of the project, but as well as Victoria Czar. You see kind of in the upper left, she along with her husband Mark own this property through their LLC. So she's just here tonight in case you guys have any questions and want to see her face. So at the September meeting, as I was introduced, we discussed certain conditions that we were going to impose on this project if it was ultimately approved. It was decided though that we would set it over for this meeting so that we had the opportunity to renotice, have a public meeting, and get additional information on the conditions that we ultimately said we were willing to propose. Since that meeting, we have renoticed. We did submit some supplemental materials to you all on September 27th. We also submitted those to the fire department through Chief Kurt Burns. That next day on the 28th, we met with Chief Burns to talk about our additional conditions, answer any additional questions that he had.
Council, could you turn your mic on? You gotta hold it down. There you go.
You want me to start
I can
over?
see it's red.
Yeah, it has to be red.
Okay, there we go. It sounds nice and loud now. So we did meet with Chief Burns on September 28th. He did inform me at the end of last week that they did give due consideration to our proposal, but that their position was unchanged, but understood that the BZA is free to do as they see fit. So while we certainly would have loved to have a change of position and support from the fire department, we are nevertheless grateful that they even gave us the opportunity to consider that. So we certainly respect the fire department's position, but we do feel that the conditions that we are willing to impose will address their concerns and will make the property safer than what it normally would be if we would just build it within the 27 feet requirement under the code. So tonight, since this is technically our first hearing, the public hearing, I would like to talk about why we are seeking this variance and also the additional materials that we submitted. Before I jump into the weeds, just from a high level, we did get some letters of support that we submitted to you. 3 of them were in our original packets. One was from Rick and Liz Luderbach, right across the pond, 2511 Fairway. And then Gary and Macy Rosier at 2507 Shorewood, basically where the driveway would start. And then Chris Yagelski, who lives a couple peninsulas down towards Carwick. And then this morning, we also got an email from Stephen and Janice Brown, who live next door to the Rosiers at 2509 Shorewood, who also live at basically at the entrance of the driveway. So preliminarily, we're asking for a variance for development standards, and there's 3 elements that technically have to be met. Number 1, that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Number 2, the use and the value of the area adjacent to the property and included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And number 3, the strict applications of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. I'd actually like to take those elements back to front. So with that last one, that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. We believe that that is true. So here specifically, this land is low-lying in nature with a high water table, which eliminates any ability to build a full basement. So as a result, the finished space that could have been in the basement is going to be elevated either to the main floor or to the second floor, requiring additional height to create those spaces. And the topography dictates that we need to build up the grade to create proper drainage away from the house. When you combine that then with the scale of the home, it requires taller ceilings to create appropriate architectural proportions. The owner also wishes to stack as many spaces within the house as possible so that rather than spreading the house out, across sprawling nature, it's able to kind of stack it up higher within the structure itself. The owner wants to build a traditional style house here to fit in the neighborhood's character. Certainly we could build a more contemporary home that would have a flat roof that would meet that 27 feet, but we know that's not what houses look like in that area, and we certainly know that the neighbors we've talked to would not like to see a flat roof house. And finally, while 33 feet may seem like a big ask, I do just want to give you reference of other zoning codes that I'm well aware that we're subject to Long Beach zoning, but just for perspective. Michigan City zoning code, Michiana Shore zoning code, LaPorte County zoning code, the maximum height of a single family dwelling is 35 feet, meaning that this house, if built within code, would actually be built within code if it was just slightly down Shorewood towards Carwick. Moving on to that second element, that the use and the value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. What's proposed here is a house, and it's a beautiful house, and it's a large house. It's probably of no surprise, it will cost a decent amount of money to make this house, and it will ultimately result in a high assessed value, and it will support other values of houses in the neighborhood. So certainly won't have an adverse effect on value. I think instead it will have a positive effect on the value. And finally, to the remaining element, which I know for Chairman Canier is a very important one, that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community, mainly the safety component. So as mentioned earlier, we do feel that the conditions that we are willing to impose would actually make the structure safer at 33 feet with the conditions as opposed to a 27-foot house without any of these conditions. Each of these conditions that we have proposed, I think it was mentioned last time where we got this idea from. Mike, who's the builder, has worked in various communities, and in Michigan, some of the projects he has where he's met with the fire department, these are proposals that they ultimately said would make the project safer, and that's why he's brought them here. These are the exact same conditions that we talked about last month. However, we have provided more materials for you, letters in support from the various companies that would install these systems, and certainly if we get more into the substance of it, Mike can certainly answer some of the questions. So with the fire suppression system, I'm not going to read verbatim, but as my packet had indicated, we have a letter from Total Fire Protection that talks about the automatic sprinkler system with the 24-hour monitoring that's going to be designed and installed to national standard. One of the things that I believe it was Mr. LeMay brought up last time was, you know, who's going to inspect that, who's going to pay for that. We certainly know that the town would want to have a look at it, but would want to pay for doing that, and we're willing to voluntarily pay for that, any inspection to make sure that it complies. Number two, installing a smoke alarm and carbon monoxide detection system. We had a letter in our packet from Engineered Protection Systems detailing what this system would be like and installing it. Widening and strengthening driveway, 20 feet wide as opposed to 10 feet wide, capable of supporting 80,000 pounds and having a clearance of 13 feet 6 inches. The idea is so it can support fire department trucks. We talked to Mr. Ernst, or excuse me, Chief Ernst, and he indicated that generally the fire department's policy is not to go into residential driveways. Certainly I don't know their policies, but my thought is that, sure, on Lakeshore Drive, a small driveway, you're not going to go in. But if you have a driveway that's 20 feet wide that can withstand 80,000 pounds, it may allow them a better position to fight a fire. Dovetail that into this turnaround, one of the things that Chief Ernst talked about is why they don't pull in is because how are they going to get out? How are they going to turn around? And we've redesigned the driveway to allow for a turnaround for these fire trucks. And then finally, there's ample materials in the packet about this last point, access for first responders. We initially just talked about a Knox box, you know, something that you can kind of type in and just get into the gate. Mike was able to get more details here. I won't go through them verbatim, but there's a letter in here that, you know, allows technology that a fire truck can come up and honk their horn like for a certain length, and then automatically it opens the gate. And there's a keypad that we'll have as well. And once you actually get to the house, have a Knox box, an actual box on there that has a key for entry. Certainly, Mr. Ernst brought up the fact that they can always just use a battering ram, and I don't doubt that they can, but we're trying to make there be as much access as possible, again, to make the structure as safe as possible. So in short, we're still asking for that request, just one request of the development standards to allow the construction of a house with a height of 33 feet. And I appreciate the time.
First of all, thank you for a very thorough packet and report. We appreciate that. Made it very user-friendly.
Good.
I appreciate that. So can I call for,
Now would be the time to ask for the public. Yes.
because this is not our usual,
Understood.
apologize.
Thanks.
If there's anyone in the audience that is in favor that has not submitted a letter that would like to speak, would you step forward? Right. You just have to state your name and your address. Okay.
I'm Kevin Foster, and my wife and I live at 2405 Shorewood Drive. To speak for her and myself, that we are in favor of the zoning board to move forward with allowing the variance. We think it would positively impact the neighborhood. And also, I'm on the Long Beach Building Commission, and I've been able to review the drawings, and I understand what the architect and engineers are up against, what they have to address. And I think they've done a very good job in addressing that. So, in my professional experience, I'm a retired contractor. I think they've addressed quite a bit of the concerns that the community and the municipal departments have addressed their concerns. So, in my opinion, I think this should go through. And there's one other issue, I don't know if I didn't hear it brought up, is, and excuse me for not being prepared to having the chapter and verse of the ordinance, two of them. One is bringing in fill to a property, and the second one deals with changing the elevation of the property. While those are important for properties, I would think, along Lakeshore Drive, the nature of the property here being lowland and swampy, if you will, or boggy, would necessitate having to bring a lot of fill and substantial material in to raise the elevation and road building and providing stable ground for the fire trucks to operate. They'd have to bring a lot of material. So I don't know if that is something separate that would have to be addressed with the zoning commission, or by allowing the road and the accommodations for the fire department that would automatically entail allowing that to happen. So
That's a great question, and we don't address things that aren't before us. What's currently before us is just the height relief.
Yeah.
So those are all great questions, so thank you.
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I hate to see time wasted, and I've seen this thing drag out a little bit, so I don't know if there's a way to amend this variation request, or automatically put a second one in. I hate to see another meeting go through and everything.
We cannot do that, sir, but.
Okay, well, whatever it takes,
But
be prepared. I think that some people on the building commission may be looking at that as an issue.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. for
Thank
the time.
you. Anyone else? All right, do we receive any letters of, in favor? I know he listed them, but.
Is there somebody on Zoom?
I'll do that next.
Michael.
As Anthony stated, there were 4 letters received in support from Rick and Elizabeth Luderbach of 2511 Fairway Drive, Chris Yagelski of 2324 Tinkers Way, Gary and Macy Rosier of 2507 Shorewood Drive, Janice and Stephen Brown of 2509 Shorewood Drive. Thank you, Meg. Anybody via Zoom who would like to speak in favor of the petition? All right, now we'll move to oppose. Anyone in the audience that's opposed that would like to speak? All right, any letters of opposition, Meg? We received 1 letter of opposition from John Wall of 2022 June Way, and that's it. Anybody on Zoom that would like to speak in opposition? Okay. All right, that closes the public part of our hearing, and now the board will talk about this petition, and then we will move forward with either approval, a continuance, or a denial. As we chat, keep those in your mind. And so.
Before you go forward, I just want to set exactly what the record is, because it's pretty long, right? One of these meetings I was in Spain. So it's the previous meetings and submissions, as well as the amendments and what Mr. Novak, the packages he's put together, previous correspondence, previous submissions. So all of those things collectively are what you can consider. But as Mr. Novak pointed out, as everybody has been advised and is aware, those 3 elements are what drives your decision. If you're prepared to make a decision tonight to approve or deny, or as you stated, to continue. So I just want to make sure what's in terms of what your consideration is, you're allowed to consider all of those items.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. All right, board members, comments, questions, things you'd like to discuss?
Go ahead.
I've been thinking, can you hear me now? Is that better? I've been thinking about this a lot, particularly in the last month. This is a complicated one. I appreciate very much the improvement in the process, the submission and so forth, and the information that we've got. That's very helpful at getting in some of the issues. I would offer the perspective that this project is very attractive for many reasons. It's attractive physically. It appears that the owners of this are really good people and they would be a good part of the community, and they have reached out. And so that's always nice to hear. I think that that's very important and a good thing. The comment by Ken, was it?
Yes.
About the building commission
I'm sorry, that
is,
means Kevin.
excuse me?
I thought it was Kevin. Ken.
Ken,
My bad. Okay.
I think I have this project, like some of the ones, did not go before the building commission first, and which is allowed and is okay. They certainly have the right to do that. But in general, the point you're bringing up is a weakness of coming to us first, because we're not equipped to respond to those kinds of complications. Our job is to take what's in front of us and say, does this meet a level or doesn't it? It's not to negotiate these kinds of things. Whereas the building commission has the ability to talk, discuss, and respond back and forth. And you're right, that fill issue could change this whole thing. But we're not going to initiate suggestions about how to do this. We're not going to design the building or change the submission and so forth. That's not our job. So that's just an observation. That's neither here nor there after that. But our focus is on special circumstances that make the zoning as it is onerous or unfair or inapplicable in this particular case. And that's the thing I'm struggling with. I mean, it certainly would be possible to design, there's plenty of land there to design a building of that size that would not rise to this height. So it is possible to achieve the intent of the ordinance. And I think that that's there. Now, I grant that it would change the character of the design, and that's not a preference of the owner. Nevertheless, I have a hard time coming up with accepting on the strict application in terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. That one I have a hard time accepting. There's another issue here in that we talked about this a little bit last time, and that's technically, we all know that no legal precedent is set if we agree or disagree with something. However, it is an example that goes on down the road. And over the last month, as I've been thinking about this, the town of Long Beach is not equipped very well for this type of situation, and is trying to be upfront in terms of their weaknesses or limits of their ability to provide certain services, especially by the volunteer fire department. And there is, related to that, kind of lurking in the background is this whole thing about whether, there is an issue that needs to be discussed. Is this a good idea to build a building higher with higher technology and so forth? And I know there's plenty of precedent for that in the general construction world, and it's widely accepted. However, we as Long Beach do not have guidance from the state of Indiana, and in fact have been told by the state before that we could not mandate these. And so I just have this feeling that there is a bigger identity for the community issue here that needs to be discussed in a broader forum than this. And that's just my perspective. And I would also note that after reading the information about these proposed conditions, thank you, the fire suppression and these the sensing system and the Knox box and so forth, those are all really good things. And however, in the larger building code issued by the state, there's guidance about where the thresholds are, where those kinds of things make a difference. And this is a very large house, and frankly, all of these conditions or improvements, the fire suppression system and the fire detection system, carbon monoxide, the improvement of the road, those would be very desirable things for a house this size, whether or not it was 27 feet or 33. And so, you know, if I were, just personally, if I were building this house, I would want to have those improvements in terms of the security of the system in any event. So I'm not sure how much of it's really hard for me to figure out how much of an incentive that is in this particular situation. So I don't know, I have those reservations. Right now I'm just talking.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's what we need to do. That's what we're here for. Did you have something you wanted to?
Well, I guess, you know, so I'll take a contrarian position. The 25-foot ordinance,
27.
27-foot ordinance, excuse me, was introduced with specific aims, and that was particularly lakeside houses that were built into the bluff, where it was 2 stories on one side and 4 or 5 stories on the other side. And the same is true when a house gets built into the side of the dune. So you can wind up with a building that seems not so tall until you walk around the other side. And that was really the impetus of the ordinance. So we don't have that here. In fact, the land's flat. And so you look at the result of the height, it's not at all a difference from front to back or side to side. It's in fact just a result of the natural pitch of the roof. And you're only going to the 2nd floor. So there were lots of discussions around 3, 4, even 5 stories. My God, we don't have ladders that can go that high, but we do have ladders that get you to the 2nd story. So I think this winds up being a really different circumstance. Another piece, and that's kind of the safety of the thing, now comes the aesthetics of it. And so we might discuss things like, yeah, we really don't want houses that are out of character with all the other houses around it. So we don't want a 33-foot house that's next to all these other houses that are 27 feet or less. And not going to wind up with that. There's nothing in the near vicinity of this house to cause that kind of aesthetic comparison. So I don't see the issues that were behind the 27-foot limit in the first place. So I guess I back up and say, yeah, I'm not sure that there should be an issue around it. That being said, and I think the addition of the safety systems that were added is is an important piece. I guess as far as opening the gates, if there's a fire alarm, that should be able to open the gates. So somebody ought to be talking about linking those systems together. If there's something going on in that place, the gates ought to open. But anyway, so that's what I have to say. I would probably move this forward, strictly based on the height. There were some other discussions around fill and everything else. I think that's a different topic. My opinion would be that, I get it. I'm not scared of the slippery slope. And I said that last meeting, there are not very many opportunities in Long Beach to have this happen. Doesn't mean it won't ever, but it's not like we're gonna be inundated with, high variance requests. And we address those one at a time on a case-by-case basis. So I think this is a special case.
Thanks, John. And I do want to clarify that ordinance was written in what we can accommodate as far as the truck moving through the streets that we have. Our streets are not quite 2 lanes. And I'm saying this like, I know, I've talked to the fire chief a couple times and just asked some of these questions. So that was based on how the trucks could move about in the community and the length that our ladder truck will go to sufficiently fight a fire. So just want to clarify that. Seth, did you have anything you'd like to?
Sure. I mean, I don't know that I'm bringing up anything novel at this point, but I think there's 2 components to the safety aspect. I think one is the safety of the dwelling itself, and the second is the safety of the first responders themselves. So I guess, and maybe I just misunderstand, because I understood that the 27-foot was not related specifically to the beachfront, was related to the capabilities of the fire trucks, and the delivery of a first responder into the upper levels of the home. And that alone gives me pause that we're putting our first responders in danger by allowing a fairly significant increase to the building height restriction. And for that reason, I think they've addressed most of the safety concerns, and I think the technology here is incredible. I also think technology fails, and I don't want to put one of our first responders in imminent peril based on aesthetic reasons, essentially. I think the other drawback here, and I think Mr. Fowler nailed it, was that, we're addressing one issue kind of in camera and in focus at this point. And we don't know what else is going to arise over the course of the construction of this home. And we've already alerted 2 issues to have with the fill, and the other issue Mr. Klausner brought up. And it just seems like doing this piecemeal is a bad idea, because we don't know what the scope of the entire project and what other variances are going to occur over the course of the construction of this home.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Comments? Ready? Comments?
Are you talking?
Yes.
He's trying to leave.
Sorry. I just was gonna piggyback up what Seth said. I agree with the safety concerns and also just what the precedent will be set if we, I understand that this, height variances aren't gonna be something that'll be a constant issue, but what are the optics moving forward if we allow this to move forward? I'm not sure. I feel like I'm not 100% comfortable with it at the very moment, and I don't know. I'm undecided at the very second here, so.
Okay, thanks, Fred, appreciate your input. Now moving forward, we can decide whether to deny or approve or continue. So with that in mind, we can make a call for someone who'd like to make a motion, and I'd like to do that. I'd like to make a motion to deny this variance, and I need to ask for a second before I read my conditions. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Petitioner seeks relief from section 154.048 of the zoning code to allow the construction of a home with a height of 33 feet from the highest final grade, which is generally limited to 27 feet. The Long Beach Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals, after giving due consideration to the subject petition for the standard development variance, supporting documents, testimony, and evidence presented during the public hearing and on the said petition, other materials presented to the BZA that are part of the public record, and the legal requirements set forth under the Indiana and Long Beach codes, the BZA now makes the following findings. The petitioner has failed to meet its burden of establishing that the approval of the requested relief will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community, and further failed to establish that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Now we have to do a roll call. Or do it based on the foregoing findings, as well as the due regard for the requirements of both state and local laws. It is the decision of the BZA to deny the requested standard development variance from the requirements of section 154.048 of the zoning code dated October 11th, 2022.
So that is your motion.
That's my motion.
And then your proposed findings and decision.
Yes. Yes.
That,
So we have to do a roll call.
yes.
So for our new members, you are saying whether you, yes, that you agree to deny the variance, or no, that you do not, that you don't want to do that. Seth McCormick,
Yes.
John Maple,
No.
Doug Wickstrom,
Yes.
Fred Woods,
Yes.
Meg Canier,
Yes. So that passes as a deny for the variance.
Petition is denied.
And the petition is denied. We appreciate all the time and effort that people put into this, and I'm very clear about this. With that in mind, we can call for, it says to adjourn. So, do I hear a motion?
I move to adjourn.
A second?
Roll call, technically,
Roll
yes.
call that too.
I know the meeting is adjourned, but I do have a question. I would like to see a hard copy or a printed copy of what the fire department had to say. I know it was read at a previous meeting, but I think there's a concern for the whole town about, there are many houses that are beyond 33 feet that are probably difficult for the fire department to get to. There are many houses that are over 10,000 feet. There are houses over 7,000 feet right in our neighborhood. And I'd like to understand the safety issues that the fire department has for the whole town.
Yeah, everything that is part of the record is available by request through the clerk's office and public. So everything, that, all of those things will be available for copy
Thank you.
for the town.
and then we'll do a roll call to adjourn. Seth McCormick,
Yes.
John Maple,
Yes.
Doug Wickstrom,
Yes.
Fred Woods,
Yes.
Meg Canier.
Yes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.